We are here for the final event out of the sort of more formal events held at A.U.K. of the Diversity Festival that's taking place this week. I would say last but not least, today's topic is sex and gender in Kosovo. And I'm very happy to present Besa Lutzi, who is the founder of Kosovo 2.0, a web platform and print magazine that I'm fairly sure you're all familiar with. It's only existed for about 3 years, but it's already a very influential medium that is used, produced and consumed by a lot of young people, young critically thinking people from Kosovo. And so, yes, Besa is going to lead us. Besa finished her undergraduate in journalism and political science at A.U.K, the American University in Bulgaria, and then went to the USA to do a master's at the University of Missouri in magazine writing. When she came back to Kosovo, she immediately, with the intellectual entrepreneurial spirit, started Kosovo 2.0, which has grown very fast, I think, in the last couple of years. So, Besa, thanks a lot for being with us. And please.
Hi everybody, it's great to be here. Although I know that usually on Fridays there's no classes, so it takes a lot to bring students here. That's what I've heard. I know because we also have a lot of interns right now at Kosovo 2.0 from A.U.K, and that's been a lovely experience. So, considering all of that, I just want to thank you all for being here. Before I get talking more about sex and gender, basically, which are the topics that we're looking at with our next magazine issue, I would like to just go a bit back in the past, about two years and a half ago, and just explain why we started Kosovo 2.0. Okay, so I came back, because like I said, I studied journalism and I focused on magazine writing for my master's. And I came back in 2008, and it was, as you know, a very particular time for Kosovo because the country had just declared independence. So there was a lot of expectations about life getting better in general. And those expectations, I think, were also the highest among young people who at the same time make up more than the majority of the country. 70% of the population, and we've heard this millions of times, that 70% of the population is under the age of 35. But unfortunately, you don't really get to hear the voice of young people in Kosovo, whether in decision-making structures, but also just in the daily discussions and daily discourse. Also, the young voice of people, I think what I thought at the time was completely lacking in the media as well. So as a result of that, together with a group of 5 other people, we started brainstorming about the Kosovo 2.0 project. And basically, the way we saw it is that we needed to create a platform online where young people would become engaged and would become active citizens of their communities and their societies, because we believe that there's a lot of issues that need to be raised and a lot of issues that young people are just waiting to be asked, but they don't necessarily see a place where they fit and where they could do that. But at the same time, what was very important for us was to use this platform as a way to place Kosovo's youth on the world map, because to date we know that Kosovo's youth is the most isolated youth in Europe, while there's a lot of need for the young people to create networking channels, the channels of communication in general with young people outside of Kosovo. So basically that was what we were thinking at the time, and we launched Kosovo 2.0 in 2010, the website, and from the beginning we started working with 3 languages, so everything we do in Albanian, English, and in Serbian. And just a brief summary of where we stand 2 years later. We've had more than 200 bloggers, around 30 video bloggers, around 50 interns who have gone through our program, around 100 magazine contributors, 7,000 Facebook followers, and we've gathered up to 70,000 unique visitors. So this is online, but at the same time, what we have going on online is basically, we don't set an editorial policy. Everything that you read on Kosovo 2.0 is stories coming from young people. They submit, and by submitting their blogs, they're basically setting up the agenda. What are the issues that young people want to talk about? But at the same time, we also felt the need, so there's people worldwide contributing. But at the same time, we also felt the need that we have to engage in more in-depth and thorough journalism, what we thought was lacking in Kosovo, and we decided to do that through a print magazine. The way we went about it is that we said, okay, we're going to dedicate every issue of the magazine to a specific theme, and look at that one topic and see what are the most important issues that we think we have to talk about. The first 3 numbers, which have already been published, the first one was image, the second one was corruption, and the third one, which came out in May of this year, was on religion. So now we're working on the 4th issue of the magazine, which is the sex issue, which will be published mid-December. So through and we knew from the beginning that we wanted to have a sex issue. We wanted to talk about gender in Kosovo, how gender is constructed, what does gender identity mean in Kosovo. But at the same time, we really wanted to push issues of sexual orientation and sexual identity. So those are the topics that we will be focusing on the sex issue. But we knew that we were going to do this at the end of the year, but when we started at the beginning of 2012, we started a lot of activities online in order to do a better planning for the sex issue. So I've basically put together some slides from the website, and I just wanted to point out to what people have been writing on the website during 2012. We've seen a lot of blogs. We have a lot of bloggers who are writing about feminism, for example. And here we have a blog from 2012. Sylvia Valencia. Sylvia is actually she's half Croatian, half Mexican young woman living in Canada. So we have these very interesting individuals contributing who bring a very diverse perspective to their writing. But anyways, what she's saying is that feminism is not age specific, nor is it gender specific. You don't have to be a woman to be a feminist, you just have to be a person who believes in the social, political, and economic equality of women. So what usually happens on the website, once you have one blogger writing on one topic, then it really triggers a lot of other bloggers to write in response of that. So, and there's been a lot of blogs on feminism, but this is another one that I wanted to share. This is A.U.K. She's from Kosovo, but she's living in Austria. And what she's saying, so it's not about putting down the male gender. It's not about setting the male gender as the evil and bad. It is about fair chances and fair opportunities. So, this is some of the responses that we've had on the blog regarding feminism. We've also had a lot of our bloggers writing about gender representation. This one is called Bulk Computing, and we have Hannah Martin, for example, writing about what it meant for her growing up as a young woman in Kosovo, and how from an early age she always thought that in order to be, womanhood means that you need to be attractive. So she writes about that, and also in this specific blog, she's deconstructing images that we see on mainstream TV in Kosovo. For example, she's talking about the Telepingo girl, the Lotto girl and all of that, and how those were the images that she grew up with, and it took her some time to actually be able to understand that it's not about attractiveness, when it comes to what it means to be a woman. And actually, there's you probably all remember from last year when the Simpsons started that this was basically a series of comic books that were based on the Simpsons series, but the author, Fisnik Ismaili, who's also with the Velvendosje political party now, he did basically the Simpsons, in which he portrays political leaders and different actors in Kosovo, and basically in an ironic, satirical way, he's basically describing their discussions. And when this series was launched, there was a lot of support on Facebook. I think in a month's time, there were 10,000 followers, and everybody was talking about it, everybody loved it. But what we were talking about within our staff is just how the female politicians were being represented in this series, the extent to which that was problematic. So Hannah Marko again, she loves talking about these issues, and she basically wrote about her impressions of the series, and she said that what I don't like is that the female characters parodied are treated as borderline sex objects. Enough times to be annoying, make fun of the person, but don't make convenient cheap shot jokes because they happen to be a woman. So we ran this blog. But basically what we had done, before running the blog, we contacted the illustrator, basically Fisnik Ismaili, to do a drawing just for this blog. So what he sent us was basically this, which we decided not to run with our blog. Because he basically went on reaffirming what Hannah was talking about in the blog. And this this went viral on Facebook, so you can, and this was Hannah's response to his drawing. People still saw it, of course, because they posted it on the Pimpsons page, but what we see is that even though like what she's critiquing is actually, he's just reinforcing what she's saying, because with the element that he chooses to criticize is basically talking about her underwear, because, and he's not actually talking about the substance of what she's writing, but he's immediately talking about her underwear as well. So, okay. So basically, these were some of the blogs that we've had, and then what we did in January this year, I'm going to switch from this. I want to show you a video, because besides blogs, we also work a lot with the video. We do videos around Kosovo, but we also try to gather video bloggers from around the world. And usually we choose a topic, and we ask people from around the world to do a 5-minute video blog on a particular issue, because we want to bring in as many different voices from around the country commenting on one issue and seeing what are the similarities or what are the differences, which we think is particularly important for young people in Kosovo to see how people elsewhere are discussing certain issues. So we've had like periphery, music, food, LGBT rights, freedom of expression, and all. So in the LGBT rights, we've had these countries contributing. And this was done in January, so I'm just going to play the video. It's a bit more statistic. It's not a typical video blog. wanna go ahead and we wanna do it, and we posted with the other blogs. But what was interesting was what happened after we posted these videos. A lot of people started writing, particularly about LGBT issues in Kosovo. And this was the first blog that we ever received, because as I said at the beginning, we're not pushing people to talk about specific issues. It's coming from them themselves, and that's why I think it's special that we just did these videos and people responded to it, so they started writing. So this was the first blog on talking about homosexuals in Kosovo, which was followed by other people just sharing about their own coming out experiences. We had this girl, Sarah Jensen. She was an intern at Kosovo 2.0, and she ran this blog on the last day of her internship. So on the last day she sent us this blog, and it's basically about talking about what it means to be a bisexual, but she's also talking just about the difficulty she's faced during her travels in the Balkans, about talking about her sexuality. So one thing that we also started writing about is in the region there's been a lot of attempts, and there's actually been organized pride parades in the past 2 years. We have this regular blogger from Serbia who wrote about the fact that the pride parade was cancelled this year, the second time in a row in Belgrade. So throughout the year we've had a lot of contributions of this kind from people on the website, and it really helps us just understand, not just from the blogs, but also by the way people engage in discussion following posts like this, and it really helps us plan our magazine. So basically, what we've decided, what we've noticed through the discussions, is that there's a regional movement on LGBT rights in the Western Balkans. But at the same time, there's lack of information amongst the different movements in these countries. Although we're all so close to each other, there's lack of information what's going on in each other's society. So what we're doing with the sex issue is we've taken really a regional approach, and we have managed to find who were the first gay people to come out in the region, and they're all writing their personal stories. So it's going to be all the first gay people in the region to come out are writing those stories. And then we're also doing in-depth profiles of where do the LGBT movements stand particularly in the region. For example, if we compare Kosovo to the rest of the Western Balkans, in Kosovo what we found out is that the movement is not that loud or active, because members of the LGBT community usually there's more of a struggle to accepting themselves and coming out to themselves, and then actually coming out to the society. Whereas in the different countries, there's different feelings and different perceptions of this matter. So what we're doing also, like for the entire November, we've dedicated the entire month to sex issues. So we have people just contributing and sending their blogs throughout this month on sex. And so yeah, this is our Facebook page. I thought it was okay. And so yes, we're talking about LGBT in the Western Balkans. We're also looking at the legal framework in all the different countries. Where do we stand in terms of in terms of the legal framework? For example, in Kosovo, the constitution says that doesn't prohibit marriage, same-sex marriage, but at the same time nobody has really nobody has tested it, so we don't know whether it would work. So we're basically doing these. And then we're looking at what are the anti-discrimination laws in all the countries, how much they're being respected, and just basically mapping the entire region where we stand in having the laws, but also where we stand in implementing them. Because just having the law doesn't necessarily mean that it is respected, that it is implemented. But besides the LGBT, okay, so sex shop in Tirana. In case you didn't know, there is a sex shop in Tirana. There used to be one in Pristina, but it goes on to about 2 years ago. We're also just looking at how do young people engage and talk about sex. We have a huge feature on sexual education, and we've done a lot of basically our interns from the internship programs have been talking a lot to young people throughout Kosovo, and just seeing what they think about sex, and how do they talk to their parents? Do they talk what kind of conversations they have at school, but also what kind of conversations they have among each other. So we're also really trying to include some we have a lot of stories like this that is just basically what we're trying to say that that it is okay to have an open discussion about sex, and actually that we're trying to promote those kind of discussions. We also have a section on porn because it's one of the hugest money-making industries. So actually our photo story will be on the porn industry in Prague by looking at it basically how the porn industry developed in Central Europe in the last 15 years or so. And yeah, I think that's it. And so basically, yeah, and what we also do a lot, like what we've done in the past with the magazine and what we'll do with the sex issue as well, is that once we publish our products or the magazine issues, we also, besides selling it, we want to trigger some kind of a discussion. So for example, with the religion issue, we had a live talk show where we had some of the journalists that had contributed to the magazine be in this panel and discuss more about their stories. So with the sex issue, what we're planning to do in December is we're going to have a reading night. We're going to be inviting some of the people from the region who are contributing to the magazine with their first-person stories about their experience of coming out, and having them read pieces of their story and have that serve as an opening, have that serve as a way to open discussion. So I think this is just an overview. I think I'll stop here. It's just an overview of like what we've been doing and what we're trying to do, and I would love to hear comments, and I would love to see a lot of you contribute to the website this month on, as it's the sex month. So, contribute. Yeah, okay, so I'll end here, and if there's any questions or remarks.
Thank you.
Questions?
Eva, the target group, what is your, I mean, first of all, I'd like to know a little bit about the groups in this site, and then where are you distributing?
Okay. Yeah.
A bit about the distribution of the baking material.
And question, because I don't think.
My question was what are the target groups of the blog or the website and of the paper, of the paper versions? Some numbers.
Okay, so like we say our target group is 18 to 35 for the website, and according to statistics, the age group that visas the most is 25 to 35. But we work a lot, we do a lot of workshops in video production, and those we do with like 18 to 22-year-old people. And but with the magazine, we already have these online followers who also read the magazine. But then with the magazine, we're also aiming to reach like decision makers and like the civil NGO like structures in Kosovo, and so basically to have the magazine serve as as an insight more to the various kind of policies and discussions either being put together in Kosovo or like discussed basically. And with the magazine regarding distribution, we sell, of course, we sell in Kosovo. We also sell in Macedonia and Albania. We've sent copies to Serbia, it's not for sale, but it's been, like people have seen it. And then we also sell in Istanbul, Amsterdam, Vienna. And we've had previous issues in Geneva and Berlin, but not in religion. We do distribution on our own outside of Kosovo, so it's like either people who contribute, who are regular contributors, they really want to see it like in their own countries, so they help, and like we send them copies, and then they basically strike a deal with like a bookstore or whatnot. We don't have a regular channel distribution with a company for outside of Kosovo. So it's a bit ad hoc in that regard, but we're building iPad app for the magazine, so that will allow us internationally to reach more audiences.
What is the number of hard copies?
We do 2,000 in Albanian, 2,000 in English, 1,500 in Albanian, and 500 in Serbian. So 4,000 total. Because it comes out in 3 languages as well.
Questions?
Hi, I'm Gem from Pristina.
Thank you.
I actually buy Kosovo 2.0. I have these issues here. I was just wondering, what are how do you finance it, and what are the plans? Because I would like to see more.
Yeah. We are registered as an NGO, so we finance through funding. I mean, through like regular donor foundations. So we, for example, so far we've had a few of the embassies support us, like the Norwegian embassy, the Dutch embassy, then we've had Swedish programs like Civil Rights Defenders, Free Press Unlimited. So it's basically some of the usual suspects in terms of donor support in the region. But we definitely are thinking of ways. I mean, we do need to make a plan for like self-sustainability. So slowly we're also going to have to think of ways to generate our own revenue to survive. Because I do see Kosovo 2.0 as a long-term project and a project that's always going to be in the hands of young people. So it's kind of the first generation's responsibility in a way to lay the foundations for that. So we will slowly turn towards like a social entrepreneurship like model, and also start looking for alternative ways to generate revenues.
Other questions or comments, maybe on sex and gender?
Hello, I'm I'm one of the psychology instructors here at A.U.K. I have to say I love Kosovo 2.0, I use it for my classes. It's wonderful to get these topics up and running for the young people here in Kosovo. My question is, because I get this with the students a lot when we discuss these ethical issues or these moral dilemmas, and they can't discuss them with their parents. So the generation gap is really huge between what their parents think and what is going on in our society and what Kosovo 2.0 represents. So they'll say things like, well, I saw this article, for example, in your website. I can't show it to my mom, or I can't tell them that, you know, we discuss these kinds of things. Have you ever considered maybe having any articles that would sort of bridge this gap? You know,
yeah.
More maybe, I know your audience is youth, but for maybe at least the younger parents, maybe 45 years old, where they would find this connection between what's going on in the society with our college students and high school kids and what they're used to, especially in a society like ours.
Yeah, thank you. In a way, I do think that we try to do that with a magazine. Like we have these discussions going on mostly among younger people on the website, and we use that discussion a lot when we're planning the magazine. So like when I was showing these blogs of like what young people were writing about, whether it be like feminism or like gender representation or LGBT, like we pay a lot of attention to that, and then we take that into account when we're planning for the magazine. So I think what we have to do actually is just to make sure that these parents are reading the magazine, and so I think that's probably what we have to work on more. But thank you for your comment and question, because it's actually good for us to know that for younger people, I for example have never had anybody say that if young people who read Kosovo 2.0 have a problem of like sharing it with their parents, and I think that's interesting, something important for us to look at as well. So, but yeah, in general, I think we try to do that with a magazine.
Questions, comments?
Do you want to talk about sex?
Well, let's talk about sex. This is your chance.
No, to talk freely. Openly.
Would you like to contribute?
You don't like to talk.
Let me ask a question. I'm being left out. To what extent do you think that issues related to sex and in just sex in general, like not necessarily sexual orientation, but sex and relationships are still a taboo in Kosovo? And how do you think that's progressing?
It's interesting because I think now there's also a difference between, like most of us who work full-time with Kosovo 2.0 were 26 to 32. And when we started the internship program, most of the interns were 18 to 22, and then we saw that there's actually quite a difference between the way we, from like 28, 30, we think about sex and talk about relationships, and the way They do. So that was something interesting that we came across. But in general, I do think it's still a taboo, and that came out also as a result of these like interviews that the interns were doing, where a lot of especially like younger women talking about the fact that they tend to hide their like whether they're sexually active or not, whereas like for men it's more some of those like typical, I guess, like you know, like for men, like for them it's still you do like they would say that, you know, for them it's like a conversation that they have when they're hanging out, like, you know, like when the boys are hanging out, and but in general it's not talked about. It's not talked about that much. What we're trying, for example, what we've also had some bloggers write about is just how like women think of women like in this society now, like judgmental. They tend to be towards each other and like tend to reinforce like certain like standards that they have to abide to or whatnot. We had this series of Let's Talk About Sex, which was in 2011, and this girl she was from Kosovo. She grew up for a lot of her life in Germany. So she started writing these blogs, Let's Talk About Sex, and it was really interesting because she was just touching on the daily things that you hear about. Oh well, yeah, you know, she's been with 5 guys, you know, so like nobody wants to marry her, you know, things like that. So she was just saying them, putting them out there, and it was very interesting to look at the discussion because, I mean, there's a lot of people like attacking her as well, like but there was a lot of people saying thank you for finally saying this and thank you for having the guts to say it actually. But I do think that it's changing, as I was saying, like even for like I'm 28, but when I was like meeting the interns at the office and just hearing them like the way they engage in talking about like sex is definitely not the way I did when I was 22 with my friends. So I do think at the same time that there is more discussion going on, but there's definitely no discussion with parents. Like definitely there's no discussion in that regard or at school. For example, and probably all of you know this from like high school here, like this, they tend to like they separate girls and guys when they have sex ed class, and so.
Can you elaborate on that? How is the education with regards to sex in schools? Since it doesn't come from the family, I suppose.
I mean, it's still, they have one class on sex ed. I mean, this is from the research that we've been doing right now for the magazine. There's one class, and different people have different experiences, and it also depends on who's your teacher at the end of the day. And so we've heard cases of, yes, being separated. Guys are taught what contraception is, girls are taught what the pill is. So, you know, which is very problematic. So they're not taught about all of like all the different, you know, I can't say resources, what's the word? But anyway, so yeah, it's very gender based, also the discussion on that, like in schools.
Okay, so my question is, since Kosovo 2.0 is promoting alternative ideas in our society in public, so what are the reactions of taboo mechanisms like our government, political parties, and religion and traditional families? Or have you gone that deep to touch that element?
What is the reaction? I mean, there was reaction for the corruption issue, for example, when it comes to political party, government reaction. But in general, I think there hasn't been reaction from the government in that regard. I know when we had the religion talk show, for example, it was good because in the audience itself there was like 300 people. There was a lot of students from, for example, from the Islamic studies department, I guess, at the University of Pristina. So there was a lot of people like that at the discussion. But from some of the Islamic groups, we sent out. There was also a boycott. Let's say I don't know if I can say boycott, but they basically did not come to the event. So, but I don't think it's like stirred up like a controversy in that regard. Like I think the sex issue will, and I think it definitely will, because I do think it's the first magazine that will be that is putting on paper and also visually things that haven't been presented in this way before, but also regionally. Because we've been working a lot with like different LGBT organizations in the region, gathering information, and they're all, I mean, they're very much looking forward for the magazine, because this is we want to distribute this regionally, we want it to serve, like, to have an impact in the entire region. So I do think the sex issues in Israel is going to be more problematic in that regard, but it's something that we're actually looking forward to.
Okay, I'm Pierre Huggins from Brussels. I'd like to know, since you, as you said, that still a taboo to talk about sex in the country, I was wondering what is the situation about HIV/AIDS? Is there any straight talk about HIV/AIDS among young people, among the parents and adults and so on?
I think that's even a bigger taboo actually in that sense. There's been campaigns on like raising awareness about HIV like in the past 12 years, but people don't talk about it. And it's a problem because in general, people are not even, like young people are not that careful about like protection in general in Kosovo. This is something that you hear like young people talking about. And having that in mind, there's definitely not enough discussion on HIV, but it's also, I think, because it's a small society, so people, I think what also prevents people from actually getting tested maybe has to do with the fact that they're worried that they're going to see somebody they know or somebody, there's not a lot of trust in the, I'm going to say, doctor-patient confidentiality relationship. So, it's not talked about that much. If it's I don't know if it's taught in schools now, it wasn't taught when I was in school. And my assumption would be that if it is, it's just basically like one day, it's talked about, passed, and that's it. But I know that young people in general just don't get tested that much or anything like that. And I don't talk about it.
So, just the next one. So as we know that I've seen the National Strategic Plan and the surveillance system, as far as I know, is not yet really functioning. So in fact, there's no real reliable data about the epidemic in the country. So do you think that 2.0 could actually play a role in this raising awareness?
We can. We will touch upon this on this article, this feature that we have on Sex Act, sex education in the schools, but we haven't thought about like a campaign in that regard yet. We're very careful about doing campaigns as an organization because we're about giving the space for like young people to talk. So but at the same time we're very picky about like what we decide to, like with the themes, for example. We choose the theme and then we do a magazine around it, and we don't engage in campaigns in that way. But it doesn't mean that we won't in the future. So I don't know. It's interesting actually because so much of the daily discussion tends, it's more about politics a lot, and there's a lot of other issues that are equally or even more important that have to be discussed about. But we do want them to come from people themselves. Like, for example, we knew that we wanted to do a sex issue, but we didn't expect to have, like, throughout the year without anybody knowing that we're doing a sex issue. We didn't expect people to write about LGBT. So that's kind of the way we function when we see what people are talking about.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Arnie. I'm a professor here at A.U.K. First of all, this is a brilliant type of an effort that you're putting together here. So I really appreciate that. You will have a lot of issues that you brought forward in your different magazines. What I'm interested in seeing, other than this just simply being a forum, when you guys thought of this and put it together, what's your objective? What do you want to come out of these efforts for the long run? Because you say you're going to be here for a long time, that's good. What are the objectives in terms of what you're trying to do? Are you changing the world? What are you doing with this?
Yeah, that's a good question. It can go a lot of different ways. It really can go a lot of different ways. But one thing that we know, one thing we know we want to do is we do want Kosovo 2.0 to become, okay, I don't like this word capacity building, but that's why we started working a lot, for example, like doing a lot of informal workshops with young people. So this has just been experimental, and one thing that we want to strengthen is getting as many young people outside of Pristina involved in this project and working and teaching them, like whether video production or writing blogs or setting up their own blogs online. So that's something that, this is the way we see that we can contribute, because if you look at the educational system, they don't get a lot of these skills in school necessarily by the time they're 18 and finish high school, because it's still very low quality, low quality educational status. So this is what we want to do. We want to work with young people. We want to give them the tools and the space, and to teach them how to articulate themselves, because that's missing. And I think that's also equally important than having like this one objective of like, you know, like specific, this is what we want to achieve, and it's achieved. For example, like if you're a political party, you have an objective to get enough votes to be in power, and then you either fail or you do it, or you get in power. But with us, it's an ongoing process, and I think what we do and how we do it is also going to come as a response to how things, like how Kosovo changes as well, and how young people change with it, and how we can actually influence and be a part of it with young people at the same time. So I think this is how we see our role more. We also struggle on our own, because the whole, like, I mean, journalism in its own, it's changing. It's changed a lot in the past 4 or 5 years, and it's changing all the time. And it's a struggle of how do you also respond and adapt to it, but also what new things can you end up introducing. So it's even in that regard, it's a bit tricky right now, but we'll see. I think it will change depending on how young people respond to it as well. For example, like we're completely restructuring the website because of the way we see people engaging on the website. So as a response to like the participation of our bloggers and just people reading it and following it, we've now, like in February for example, we're going to launch a completely new website responding to that need. So I think these are the kind of changes that we'll do.
I'm Pushtin Swai, a sophomore student here at A.U.K. And I think sex education is not promoted enough here in Kosovo. And where it is promoted, it is very biased based on cultural norms. And usually when we've been taught about sex education, we've been taught mostly about disadvantages of having sex, for example. And I think, are you trying here to like write blogs where both points are presented, like disadvantages and advantages? Because we have, as I said, we're biased on when we think and talk about sex. That's why mostly, I think, mostly people think that, okay, these are the disadvantages, you don't have to talk about this, you know, it's awful, it's bad.
What are the disadvantages? I'm just
Yes.
Like, just so I can answer your question.
Yes, diseases, and mostly we've been taught about diseases, and that's it. There's nothing else. Are you trying here to write about both disadvantages, like diseases, and advantages of having?
I don't think we should look at them as disadvantages, because there's measures you can take to prevent the disadvantages that can lead as a result of sex. But what we're trying to do is inform, I think. First of all, like inform, and we're trying to inform people, and a lot of the blogs that you read are coming from people themselves. So I think these are people that are recognizing what kind of information is missing in general, and are responding to that. What I would like us to achieve through either having these blogs, but also doing this sex issues, is just giving, like, allowing people to, to have the information available, and then you can make up your mind, you know, in a way. Because if you're lacking the information, most probably your decisions or your opinions are going to be based on false assumptions, okay? So we will provide the information, and we will tell those personal stories, and we will write about real human, like real experiences, and I think that's the reason we do that, because we believe they have more power in changing perceptions and breaking taboos and all of that. For example, we have a story, it's going to be in the magazine, about like how people with disabilities have sex, because nobody thinks about it or talks about that. And I think that's something equally important to talk about. So we have a story on that, for example. And so the more you write about these issues, the more information you give, and then you reach to a point where we don't have to think of advantages, disadvantages, but actually, you know, yeah, I think that's how we do it in that way.
I have another question. Sorry to be annoying. But my question is specifically for this sex issue because I do some counseling here at A.U.K with students, and I know how big deal the whole sex issue is in this school and in our society. My question is, how are you going to reach the bloggers for this issue? And for example, are there any incentives, for example, for having someone from Rahovet's writing in this issue? You know what the sex situation is there with the youth.
So how are we gonna involve the bloggers?
Yes, how do you reach them for the bloggers?
I mean, we're doing that through the sex month on the website. So basically what we've done is, it's open. I mean, that's how it functions. We put posts on Facebook, for example. We've told everybody it's the sex month of Kosovo 2.0, and we just ask people to start sending in their stories. And usually, sometimes we use that as material for our own to conceptualize stories and think of story ideas for the magazine. But for the magazine, we work only with professional journalists. You know, this is more a citizen journalism platform. While for the magazine, because it involves more research, more in-depth reporting, so we work with writers who've been publishing for a few years or whatnot.
Is the magazine also distributed in smaller towns in Kosovo? Does it reach those people, or I'm talking mainly about small towns?
Well, we distribute through Rivinja, so it does go throughout Kosovo. It's not like outside of the 5 regional cities. It's not sold that much, but the way we engage people from smaller towns in Kosovo is through the workshops that we do on video, for example. That's been kind of our approach in that regard, and for those we actually look for the participants. We usually take only 1 or 2 from Pristina, and all the rest of the participants are generally outside of Pristina. So what we hope to do with this is, while we bring them to these workshops and we work with them, when they actually also go back to their towns, not only do they have this new skill or tool, but they also spread the word about Kosovo 2.0. So this is the way that we try to promote ourselves, not just promoting, but also doing something for those young people.
Yes, because my concern was that people who will talk about sex are people who talk about sex anyway, and then the ones who never do, they come out. Thank you so much.
And my last question is just, do you intend or have you presented such a presentation in Pristina University or other university? Could you expand a bit why?
We haven't done it. We haven't done it yet. We've met. We wanted to put the magazine there, and they said no. It's no, we don't have the funds to buy it and to promote it. But I haven't had a discussion like this at the University of Pristina, and I actually think it's something that we really have to do. I'm going to be involved at the University of Pristina as of next month, so I do think that that's also going to be one way for me to introduce Kosovo 2.0 there, but not really good answer as to why we haven't done a presentation there yet. So, honestly.
Just to add to this a little bit, so I understand it has to be bought, it costs. It's not available for free, maybe in libraries or something like that, or with centers around the...
We do give it out also for free. We're trying to generate some money with it, but we do leave it in places as well. We've left it at a few places. So it depends, we do it half-half. But for example, we've talked to all the different private universities for them to, they don't need to do much, they can just subscribe to 5 issues or even 3 issues, because it also helps just create a relationship with them, rather than, when we went for meetings with them and they said, okay, we don't think we're going to be able to subscribe, we would leave the magazine there for students to see it, why not? But I think it's kind of sad that they don't subscribe them themselves as well, to make it a regular thing, because it also comes out only twice a year at this point. So.
another question. Do you organize events like discussion and debates and stuff like that, and do you use them for fundraising?
We haven't, and that was on purpose. Because what's been very important for us, like in the past 2 years, is just to, I mean, we started out as when we doing events as a way to also like bring back this sense of community which was lacking, you know. So that's why we did not want to charge for events, because we want people to come to our events. We want them to enjoy it. Like for us, it's more important for them to have access to the material and access to like the content than to charge for it. But it is something that we're looking into, but I'm still a bit hesitant about it, because I think what we managed to do is really create this image of like when we do organize events, that it's a lot of fun, but it's also educational. I mean, because besides discussions and debates, we do like these picnics, and then we partner with different film and documentary festivals, and also we were looking at different ways of just being present in public space as well. But I mean, if we do like huge parties, for example, then we'll probably charge for stuff like that, because we're planning right now doing a party for the sex issue as well for the end of the year. So it depends on what is the aim of the event, I would say, as well, what you're trying to achieve.
Hi, my name is Kathy McDonald. I work at the U.S. Embassy. First, you two put out an amazing magazine, and we commend you for that. And second, I was wondering if you anticipate controversy after the launch of this next issue. What form do you think that will take? Thank you.
I think we definitely do. We are expecting a controversy around this, and in one way, I'm worried that there's going to be maybe even people who won't buy the magazine, or who won't read it, or they buy, like, you know, they start reading and then be like, oh, this is something that I don't want to like read about. I'm a bit worried. I don't know if there's going to be any kind of like different groups, let's say, whether it be like religious or what, who will protest against it. I don't think it will strike that kind of a protest, because still in terms of readership within Pristina, it's read among. It's still not read by the masses, the magazine, in that way. So, like, in order for it to have that huge kind of an effect, like on different groups, then it would have to be something that's published, for example, in a editorial. But what we're planning to do is actually is partnering with some of the daily newspapers and asking them to reprint some of the stories, and also let people know that this is just one story, like in this magazine, that deals with like other issues as well. So, and if that all goes well, then I think there will be more controversy around it. I mean, it can go either. We were a bit worried also with the religion issue, but like nothing really happened, you know. Like, but with this one, it's a bit more different. I do expect. I'm just worried that people won't read it, and I think that would be unfortunate, because I think the stories are going to be very powerful, and they can actually affect people changing their minds in the way they view a lot of issues. I don't know if that answers the question.
Okay, I have now a provocative question for you. If gays will come at your organization and they will ask you to help them to organize a gay parade in Pristina, what would you do? Would you do that?
Yes.
Okay, so,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
I will tell them.
No, but the question is, I think what's unfortunate is that they don't come, and I think that the problem with this gay scene in general in Kosovo, because they've been very hesitant, and also, I mean, we've had the most troubles in getting people's sources from Kosovo in that regard. So I think it's them who have to step up. They have to step up. So.
There's perhaps a concluding question. If anyone in the room thinks they would like to use this forum, Kosovo 2.0, to contribute something, whether it's on the theme of sex or on any other theme, to your blog, what's the process? Because there's a lot of people in this room who have a lot to say, right?
Well, I mean, we have email addresses on the website. You can either write to the blog at kosovo2.0.com or contact at kosovo2.0.com, or even if you just send a message on our Facebook page, we will reply to it. So, like all the, like on the web, if you go to the About Us page, you have the email addresses, or if you're already following us on Facebook, just send us a message there. And
but in principle, anyone can write an article.
Yeah,
that can be published on the blog.
Anybody can write, and it usually goes through a bit of editing and translation, and then gets posted.
I know the professor was probably going to have a discussion, but I had one last question. How do you think that we stand to the neighbor countries like Serbia, Macedonia, and Albania on the case of gays, lesbians, transsexuals, and bisexuals?
Well, I think in Kosovo, with regard to the community itself, I think we lack in terms of like organization. You know, there is more organizations, right? LGBT organizations right now. There's actually two LGBT organizations right now, but three. Yes, three. Okay, sorry. But they need to be more loud in Kosovo. And for example, if you compare Kosovo to Serbia, in Serbia they're very loud. In Kosovo the problem is that gay people are not coming out to themselves, really. And in terms of legislation, Kosovo has the best legislation in that regard from all the countries in the region. But the problem is with the implementation, for example. But in all the countries the problem is the implementation. But in terms of just like having the legal framework, Kosovo doesn't have the best. In Macedonia, there is the most violence, really, that you see towards the LGBT community. That's in Macedonia. But if you look at all the countries in the region, they've all had attempts, or either attempts or they have organized pride parades. And Kosovo is the only one where there's no, not even a talk about organizing a pride parade. So that's why I think that we're lagging behind in a way in this regard, because people aren't being loud enough. And even the activists themselves, everybody's very precautious about what they say and how they say it and how they get involved with the movement and whatnot. But in Croatia, Croatia is actually the best in this regard. But we've seen what's happened in Croatia and in Serbia where they organized pride parades. There was huge protests. They basically tore down. They tried to destroy the entire cities, people protesting. So, does that? Or are you looking for something more specific on people's perceptions, or in terms of laws, or?
Maybe methods that successful methods that countries on the region have implemented to serve on making people aware of such topics. Maybe are there any successful ways that we can follow?
I think the movement is going to take shape differently in every country, because the context in which you're operating it is going to be different depending on the country you're in. And I think if we want to see something in terms of success that's been happening in the rest of the region, I would just restate what I said earlier. I guess that there has the LGBT organizations have to be out there as well. They have to make themselves known, and they have to create and have the public know that these organizations exist. And that's the problem that we're having. There was a discussion. I remember when there was going to be a discussion on the national television stations, and nobody wanted to go on the debate. Nobody wanted to, and I think that's very sad. And people have to take this up, and they have to go on the debates, and they have to start talking about it. And this is where we definitely lag behind. So,
do you have stories of coming up in
yeah.
Kosovo?